Hello. We're trying this out for the first time over on StreamYard. I've invited Mike Akialis to join us and talk about mortgages. Give me a second. Hopefully, Akialis will be logging on here in a minute and see how it goes. And while we're waiting, I'm going to talk a little about real estate. The market right now is just booming, as I'm sure everybody knows. Looks like Mike's coming on right here. Add the stream. Hey, there he is. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
All right, we're in business. Yeah, excellent. Let me turn up my speakers a little bit. Well, for those of you who don't know us, I'm Mike Andrews. This is Mike Akialis. We're good friends and, in the real estate business, in essence, together. We've been working together for a long time. I'm with EXP Realty. Mike's been a mortgage broker. And, why don't you introduce yourself, Mike? Tell everyone kind of who you are and what you got going on and kind of start it from there.
Yeah, of course, Mike Akialis, work with American Home Mortgage. We're a local mortgage broker shop over in Little Flagler Beach, Florida. And I've been doing loans now 11 years. Prior to doing loans, I managed a title company for 10 years. So I got over 20 years experience in the business and doing searches, doing the closings and all of that. Have definitely give me a one-up on the average loan officer when it comes to the mortgage environment.
Excellent.
That's just about it.
Let me ask you a few questions. Then we'll go into a couple of things that I know, kind of about how you work and so, kind of the purpose of this call today and this live, I guess, for everybody is just to kind of give some updates from someone that's in it every day, all day. I mean, Mike is like, he's 7 days a week. On the weekends, he calls him. He's like doing some sort of underwriting. He's just on it 24 hours a day. So he's definitely an expert in the industry, and definitely with title too. I've never met any mortgage broker that can explain title like Akialis, because he's done title for so long. He can look through a stack of mortgage papers this deep, and you can just kind of blindly choose something, and he'll tell you what it is. And to me, that's super impressive, because I think anyone can just be a mortgage broker if you got to get your license, do your thing. So that's something that he's just super proficient in, and his customer service is awesome. He does a lot of great things for my customers. Calls on the weekends, or needing an updated letter. Or, to me, it's all about service. A lot of those big banks out there, I'm sure you guys know, are quite brutal to work with, even to get them to answer the phone or an email or something like that. So there's just a few things that kind of stand out with Mike's service and so forth. So, what are you seeing happening in the mortgage market right now with I guess trends, and what's happening right now?
Yeah, well, obviously the market's incredibly strong, stronger than it's ever been, at least in the 20 years I've been in the business, in the sense of, 15 years ago when we had a strong real estate market, the boom from 2005 to 2006, everything was great. But then, of course, we had the end result of that. Difference in this time is our foundation. The people are actually qualifying for their loans. We're not dealing with the crazy neg-am products that are getting people into houses they can't afford, where the payment's changing. It's very standard fixed 30-year mortgages is about what everybody's getting. So, like, one of the concerns that I know a lot of people had with the rental moratorium, or that the government put that people didn't have to pay rent for so many months. They were concerned that when that comes back around and the forbearance stopped, when people didn't have to pay their mortgages because of the same circumstances, that there'd be a lot of foreclosures. But turns out that there's not a lot of foreclosures, because people are actually qualifying for their mortgages, are able to pay them, and making for a very strong.
What happened to that forbearance? What do you know much about that? It's kind of a little side note, but if they, said, hey, don't worry about making mortgage payments for 12, 16 months, whatever, are they just stacking that on at the end and
That's
adding
exactly. They're modifying them.
Absolutely. They're modifying them. And so if you had 8 months of forbearance where you didn't have to make a mortgage payment, they're working on a modification. They're just going to add 8 months to the end of your loan. So instead of a 30-year mortgage, you'll have a 30-year, 8-month mortgage. And they're just working it out because the banks don't want to go through foreclosures. Foreclosures are too expensive. The banks would rather work things out. The banks don't want the homes. They don't want to sell the homes. They want your interest. That's what it's all predicated. That's what everything's predicated on, is the rate of return and everything that it does in the secondary market and then eventually to Wall Street. So they want to work things out, and that's exactly what's happened from what I can see. But, the foreclosure market is virtually, lowest it's been since I've been in business.
Yeah.
Especially with the concerns with what's happened in our industry, and just a great time right now. Rates are phenomenal, even though they've
What are rates
ticked up.
at? I mean, for someone that's got, say, let's say, maybe above average credit score, like let's say 720, 750. I mean, where are they falling into like a 30-year product if they're putting 20% down?
They're going to be in the low threes right now. We just recently had a little tick in the 10-year treasury bond. That's very much so what our 30-year mortgage is governed by. When that goes up, we go up. About 3 weeks ago, we were about 1.3. Now we're at 1.6. And essentially that equates to about an eighth, maybe a little bit more in pricing on an adjustment. So whereas I was in maybe the high twos 3 weeks ago, we're in the low threes right now. Right. So it's still an amazing time.
Not changing a buyer's world much by, a few hundred basis point here and there is not making their payment go through the roof.
No, not at all. When you're dealing with the difference between like a 2.8 and a 3.1, you might be dealing with $20 different in their monthly payment, maybe 25, depending on the loan amount. Especially with the low interest rates, it's not that significant enough where it makes or breaks anybody. So, it's still historically low. And anybody who's ever, bought a house or been around for a little while, if you hear you have a rate in the threes, that's historically phenomenal. We're very spoiled the past decade with our low interest rates.
How do you think that's like changing? Like, what do you think that means to like the sellers out there, in the marketplace? Is that making their, market still strong or weaker? With this kind of, it's been in the twos and threes for a while now. So as far as sellers are concerned, because I know a lot of times right now there's not a lot of inventory out there. Sellers are really, they're asking a lot. A lot of times they're getting a lot of times cash, and not worried about the finance sometimes in these cash deals. But you think that those rates, those low rates, is that affecting the seller's market at all in any like negative or positive way?
Well, I would say definitely in a positive way, because it creates more affordability. Somebody who makes $100,000 a year can only afford so much house at a 5% interest. When that interest is down to 3%, they can afford that much more. It's definitely a significant change, and provided the market bears the value increase, it allows the sellers to get more money for their place because buyers can afford more.
Yeah. Have you seen any issues with appraisals in your office, like over the last 6 months? Has there been any? Sometimes there's always something, but has there been any, significant increases of issues with appraisals as of, say last 5-6 months?
Well, I would say yes. Yes, we have, but it's been leveling off, because what happened is about 6-7 months ago, when we had this little price surge, price points and contracts were coming out, but the comps hadn't hit the market yet.
Right.
So it's hard to judge a February market and November and December's comps, because they just weren't there yet. Where February, March, April, especially in our local blessed area, we had a really big surge in values because of our, where our location. Again, the three best things about real estate: location.
Yeah.
And when you're just, when you're miles from the beach and you can take a 5-minute drive and be at the ocean, that's a huge, bang for your buck with where we are. In the first, when I say any first world country, you're not going to get this close to the ocean. It's just that simple. So for the sellers in our area, that's a huge benefit, because with that increased price, the buyers have that affordability now. Whereas if the rates were at 6 and 7%, we're nowhere near the price level where we would be. So
tell the people that are watching. I'm sorry, what?
No, that's where the benefit for the sellers come in.
Gotcha. The last thing I'll ask of you is this, because I think it's really important. Tell us, the people out there watching, what I think makes you different, and maybe you can expound upon this, is just like the level of, underwriting that you do. When you send me a pre-qual, like I know, like these people have you've walked them through a lot of steps. So can you just, I know for the most part what they are, because I've done so many deals with it, but can you tell everyone else kind of, if an agent were to come to you, with a buyer, or just a buyer contacting you directly that's watching, say, hey, I'm looking to get a refi, or I'm, looking to purchase a home, walk them through a little bit, how you underwrite them and so forth, and come up with what I would call a real pre-approval letter, as opposed to just some random pre-qual, so that how that's going to really kind of effectively get them a better deal, when they're presenting their offer.
Well, essentially, it's a matter of being thorough. I'm not just talking to somebody on the phone, getting their what they think they make or what they say they make or what they say their credit is. I'm actually gathering the income and asset documentation, going ahead and pulling credit and going through the whole process with them. In our systems here, which I hope most loan officers have the same availability, but the idea is that we're running them through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's automated underwriting system. Yeah. I'm not putting out an approval out there unless I know we're good, because sometimes you never know what things catch. No human can catch everything. That's what the computers are for. It's a little more stringent of an approval process, and you call me at 5 o'clock and need an approval letter by 5:30. That's a little tough thing to do, just simply because I really want to look at those income and asset, and my approval letter is super important to me and my reputation. When I put a letter out there, I want somebody to know that there's weight behind that letter. I know for a fact my customers have won deals because the listing agent has seen my letter versus one of my competitors and knows that Mike does his job and my competitor not necessarily as thorough. And even though the price might be lower, if it's a few thousand, I've had listing agents say, take this because I know this is good versus, hey, it might be $3,000 more, but I can't promise you that you're going to have success with that. So the importance of having a thorough pre-approval is one of the best things a buyer can have when they're going out there on the market, because they can say, hey, I'm not just, I don't got this, I got backing behind this letter.
Right, exactly.
And I've had many listing agents call me, and I encourage them to call me. I'll be happy to go over where I am with them. But doing this long enough, where none of us want to spin our wheels. I always joke around, I'm in this for the money when it comes down to it, as everybody is with their job, but we don't want to work and not get, not come to the end. It's very frustrating to do all the work and not come to the finish line. So very important to start properly early. The other thing it does is it eliminates a lot of the headaches and hassles, and everybody says, oh, they're always asking for everything at the last minute. I need this, I need that. Let's get it all up front. Have that solid file. We go in, we just have a few conditions. You come out of underwriting with 3 or 4 conditions, outside of the standard appraisal, insurance, everything else we normally do. It just makes the transaction that much smoother. And like you said, Mike, communication. That's one of the crucial things. One of the things I think that sets me definitely apart, and I've won a lot of business because of it. I'm keeping the listing agent informed, the buyer's agent informed, and the buyer. Every process, I have checkpoints, and I keep a system, and I keep a list of when I call people. I let them know that I'm going to be calling them and when I'm going to be calling them, so they're not wondering, when's this guy going to call me? When am I going to hear from them? I always tell them, if you haven't heard from me and you feel
setting the expectations.
That's but if they want to call me, call me. My phone's always available. As I say, I'll always promise I'll communicate. And, one of my favorite things to say is, I might not always tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to let you know I'm going to let you know the factual.
I've heard you say that for years, and that's what you need, right? I mean, this is typically one of the largest, purchases and transactions, I should say, in most people's lives is buying and selling, real estate and getting mortgages. So, I can attest to everything Mike just said, because I've worked with him for many, many years now, and I've worked with other brokers in the past before me and Mike kind of started doing business together, as a realtor and mortgage broker. But I've definitely won deals just like he says, and I always start the conversation off even before I'm submitting the offers, like, I'm giving you X, Y, Z, but realize they've been submitted through Mike Akialis, an American Home Mortgage. He's done all of the underwriting, bank statements, verification of employment, everything Mike just said. And it might sound like, I think a lot of people out there just kind of assume that everyone does a great job like Mike. I mean, and that's what everyone wants to think. Oh, everyone just does it. And it's just not the case. So I really want him to tell that in great detail, because it's super important to everyone out there, whether you're a mortgage broker or a realtor looking for someone like Mike, or just a buyer or a seller out there that, again, needs to refinance or, just get a pre-qual letter and really know where they're at. Because a lot of times people have other assets that they've got to sell first, or maybe not sure if they can. There's a lot of people, we've dealt with this many times, say have a place up in New Jersey or New York or wherever, out of state, and says, well, I'm not sure if I really want to sell that yet. And then Mike can let them know, hey, you know what? Based on your debt to income ratio and so forth, you can actually keep that, or you can keep it, but maybe you've got to rent it. So he'll figure out a solution. It's not, what's the other thing you say? If not today, maybe later. What's that one other little good tagline you have?
Not everybody's always ready right now, but doesn't mean we can't get you ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's like maybe can't buy something today, but Mike will put you on the path to get you there another time. And that's happened countless times with us, where I get them to somebody, and for one reason or another, whether it's income or credit, or there's a lot of reasons maybe they don't qualify, Mike is not one to say, okay, well, have a nice day and just move on to the next one. He will invest time and give them a path of what they need to do to get there, whether it's, getting their credit cleaned up or, paying, maybe it's hey, you got to save up some money to pay off some of those debts so that your DTI comes lower. There's a variety of things, but Mike doesn't just leave you out hanging out to dry.
No, absolutely, Mike. That's, with all the customers, if we work with 10 people this month and get them on a path, even if it takes them 12 months for us to have, even if we get a 25% retention of those people, you're still going to have 4 or 5 loans a year from now. I'm in the business for the long run. You're in the business for the long run. There's no doubt having those time and energy, and people appreciate that because, just like you said, you're not throwing people out, giving them the idea because everybody can attain home ownership. I mean, it's possible for everybody. You just got to know what to do. And again, going back to the importance of just making sure you know where you stand, just like you said, Mike. You don't want to go out and go shopping and go looking for things, and all of a sudden you're under contract, and then you realize you can't afford it.
And that actually brings me a great point. So that's really important to especially agents out there, maybe newer agents, but sometimes even guys like myself, almost 20 years in the business, forget, when you get these buyers sometimes, maybe they're not looking to purchase for, that you meet them online or wherever, Facebook or, whatever it is. I'm looking to get something in 6 months or whatever. It's a really good, and a lot of them will say, I got a pre-qual letter before or something like that, and it could be from 6 months ago or whatever. Definitely have them reach out to Mike or wherever mortgage broker you're using, because you don't want to find out 6 months from now, if you would have done this, you'd be able to buy it today, right? So it's definitely something I highly recommend is get him in touch with Mike, and maybe right away, if they know their credit's okay, maybe he can just run some numbers, but it's not a bad idea to have them get pre-qualified first to make sure there is no red flags. A lot of people, especially, and I found it's almost worse with wealthier people, because they make good money. They've got 2-3 houses and Mercedes and BMWs. And I know we've run into this many times. And they, I can get a loan. I made all this money. I got cash coming out of my ears. But it doesn't mean you can go get a loan. And unfortunately, I see you smiling because you know what I'm talking about.
I almost know who you're talking about.
Well, there's many of them. There's, we've got current, past, and future, right? But again, it's just another really good point is to get in touch with Mike beforehand and it doesn't matter again if they're super wealthy or maybe they're just younger, they're just starting their first job in their career, looking to get the first house. Because most people aren't typically, the people I run into, especially online, I would say only maybe 20% are ready to do something within 30 to 60 days. Everyone else is when I retire in a year or when this happens, these different milestones and cornerstones in their life that have to happen. So that's when, when I would say you're 6 months or so out, that's when you got to get them with Mike and let them do some underwriting, because there may be some things on their credit they don't even know are even there. Ex-wife did something, or there's a lot of fraud, of course, nowadays. They don't even know. All of a sudden, they got $20,000 worth of credit cards. They didn't even use it. Someone stole their identity. These things happen. So, again, we go on and on. All kinds of scenarios, but I'm just trying to give some of the broad strokes where Mike really can help customers out, help brokers out, and really make a difference and make or break difference in getting into a home or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't cut yourself short either. You've been around long enough, and enough, to guide people in the same likeliness. It's, one of the things you want as a good real estate agent, same respect, is you want somebody who's going to communicate, who'll be on top of things, and also look at the big picture. A lot of realtors, if you're not ready to look right now, I don't know if they want to spend their time or energy with you because they want that paycheck now. They don't realize, building their business for the future. That's the importance. It's not today's paycheck that makes a difference. We need to create a system of referrals, create relationships where it builds our business for the future and we grow. If not, if you're just going deal to deal and not looking toward the future, you're not doing the right thing, and that's not good for your customers either, in my opinion, because customers are everybody comes from different walks of life and has different needs, and like yourself, I've seen you support just the wealthiest to the person buying their first house, scraping every penny together, and you can't treat anybody any less or any. Well,
it's relationships, right? It's all about relationships, and I don't consider myself probably I don't know everything. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, right? There's always things to be learned, but it's all about developing that relationship, actually showing that you care. And that's what I love about what you do and bring it back to you. I appreciate you saying what you're saying about me. But it's really about that relationship, and not, like you said earlier, not about like, oh, I can't close today. Oh, we'll see you later, right? Because that's and for those of you that are in the business that are listening, that is invaluable, because that's what your customer's going to remember. He won't even, oh, you got me a great deal, blah, blah. He's going to remember that you worked with him for 6, 8, 10 months. I mean, I've got deals I closed that are over a year, right? They're getting drip emails and properties, and I stay in touch with them. I'll call them from time to time to check in, see if anything's changed. But that's what makes, guys like myself and Mike different, and that's what will really give you longevity in this business. I mean, I'm coming up on my 20th year in real estate, and there's been really great times, there's been some bad times, and kind of everything in between. But what keeps me on the road and going is kind of what Mike is talking about, just consistency and definitely customer service and relationships. And after that, you just need to be a professional, know your business, right? Just like Mike knows what he's doing, down to the last detail. And again, I don't know. There's maybe someone else out there, but I've seen Mike do it, and that damn stack of papers always just impresses the shit out of me. And like, even the title person, like, well, Mike will always very kind. Well, do you mind if I answer this? And Mike will literally interject. I mean, I've seen it at many closing tables where Mike will basically like answer, maybe give a better answer, or I'm not trying to like title companies aren't stupid. I'm not trying to, but Mike has just been around. And sometimes you got those engineers and those people that they're looking at that tiniest little detail, and they want to read every damn inch of the 800-page, mortgage, application and closing statement. So that's important. It makes all the difference. So I appreciate all the knowledge.
That's really what it comes down to, Mike. It's a matter of, everything we do in our business, my business and even your business, very logical. There's a reason behind why we have the rules. There's a reason why we have the disclosures we have. And it's just, being able to understand why we need them and being able to explain that. One of the things I take pride in, and like you said, is being able to explain things. I had a math teacher. I say this, to my a lot of my customers. I had a math teacher that was able to explain things in like 10 different ways. If a kid didn't understand the process of the equation this way, he stepped back and said, okay, but what if you looked at it like this? And then if that didn't work, you step back. What if you looked at it like this? And after so many tries, you realize you're going to figure out how that individual learns, how that individual, and doing it for 20 years, it's kind of easier now because you can recognize the different characteristics and personality types, and just being able to explain it to them so that personality understands it. Nothing personal, not that they're stupid. It's not that they don't, they just, sometimes people need things explained a little differently. And one of the things I like to take pride in, I kind of explain things in a little bit of a matter of fact, little, less formal terminology. I use a lot of just, I don't want to say layman's terms because I don't want to debase anything, but the reality is you just explain things normally and it's like, oh, that makes sense.
Right. Well, like your way to say, what's the one? I forget a lot because you have a lot of great lines. What are you don't pay, you don't stay type of thing, right? Like what, I forget what part of the close that is, but basically if you don't pay, you gotta go, right? I mean, there's this, and it kind of sums it up. Well, that's what that page is. Like, don't forget to pay. If you do, then
and that's what
it makes people feel comfortable. I mean, that's why I think a lot of people also do business with you. Is that, I mean, put your feet up. You probably got your sandals on, right? I mean,
not today, Mike. It'll be the second time ever you're gonna see me.
Oh my gosh!
I got shoes on again.
Wow. Well, you need some. His feet are cracking because he wears sandals so much. I'm the same way. So, I mean, typically, I normally have a collared shirt. I apologize. I just came from the dentist and I wore this because I didn't want to wear my nice collared shirt and I was a little late. I was supposed to be on this call at 3 o'clock with Mike. So thank you for taking the time today. I know you're super busy, for making this call and showing it to everybody. But again, it's just, that's how we are. People want to do business with us because they like us. It's all about, again, the lifestyle, right? Mike has been. And how long have you been in the Flagler Beach house now?
I'm in my same house in Flagler Beach now for over 21 years.
Right. And that's insane. And before that, he was in Ormond growing up. So he's basically been in Volusia and Flagler his entire life. I've been here almost 20 years now. I've been in Florida my entire life. So, I got about half the time that Mike's got here. But it just, to me, that's also very important. I mean, I would much rather give business to, well, number one, my friends, of course, but also to professionals, but also to local business owners like yourself, not Bank of America and Chase, which are never going to give me, and I've had to deal with those people before, they're never going to give me the kind of customer service and that you will ever bring to the table.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the bigger box banks, because
they have their model on how they operate. And, that loan officer who's sitting at that bank's desk, he is most likely on salary or an hourly wage and might get a little bit of a bonus for every loan that closes. He's not there knowing the ins and outs. It's not his job. It's his job to take applications. Like specifically, I know a guy who worked for Quicken Loans. People who answer their phones, their job is just to take an application. They don't know whether you're approved or not. You got to go through underwriting. They take the application, they send you the approval letter, and then once you go through underwriting, you might already be under contract and you find out you're denied because the first person you talked to really didn't know what they were doing. But it's not their job. It's nothing personal against that individual. It's not their job to know that. It's their job.
But that's the process, and that's why I try to explain to a lot of these big, when I always explain to people you don't, when they call me and they tell me, oh, I'm pre-approved with one of those big boxes, how dangerous that really is. And they and I appreciate sometimes they're very loyal, right? They've been with Chase or Bank of America or whoever it is for so many years. But, the mortgage side of that world is a lot different than putting your money in an annuity or some stocks or, whatever, even the financial planners, right? They don't, those people don't communicate together. And I've seen them get into work where, please call my financial advisor because he's like some big guy and handling all this money. And he's now kind of trying to get in touch with the mortgage side. And they don't communicate, right? And they try, and sometimes they help, right? But the point is, you don't need to go through that. You shouldn't go through that, especially in the way the market is. And when you have someone like Mike that can give you that service, and you're not sacrificing rates, you're not sacrificing anything. When it comes to all that, I know jumbo sometimes is a little bit different world, but even your jumbo stuff is really
Mike, I got news on jumbo. We being a mortgage broker, we have about 18 different lenders that we run through. We have one lender that has put out some spectacular jumbo pricing. Yeah. I'm not kidding. We're like at 3.3 and 3.5 on jumbo loans, right? Which is
that's unheard of. Which honestly, is always asking about jumbos, always asking about construction loans. I mean, those are the tough ones.
And Mike, that's not an ARM. That's a fixed 30-year at that rate for in our jumbo. The conforming loan limit is changing in 2 weeks. We're going from that $548,250 max conforming loan limit. It's going to $625 November 1st. Nice. I can actually already take applications at $625 because sale after November 1st can be accepted at $625. So we actually have a new tier of what qualify of that conforming loan limit. Wow. So it's even better for our area, better for those prices increase, and better for the buyers and sellers, because when you do cross that line into the jumbo world, there's just a few more restrictions and things that make it a lot more challenging.
Just for myself, what's the minimum down payment for like a jumbo right now?
We can get them done at 10 and 15% done, depending on credit score. Right, but it's really just a matter of the overall profile. The biggest challenge, though, is you're dealing with, a limited debt to income ratio. When you're, we got to be under 43%, when it comes down to it, whereas a conventional conforming loan with good credit will let us go up to 50, so there are some other constraints,
there's always a give and play, but hey, you're offering competitive rates with, you don't need to necessarily have 20% down, that's big.
And this just happened. This is just over like the past month and a half that this particular lender. We worked with this lender now for almost 2 years. They weren't very competitive with their pricing, but they changed their model and did some things, and now their jumbo pricing is amazing, because I think if even to go to the big box retailer to get those rates, you're going to be in a 5-1 ARM or a 7-1 ARM where they'll be fixed for a few years, but then it starts to adjust based on whatever index, LIBOR or prime, whatever the bank decides to use for their index. But realistically,
and very few people want to get into that. There's only a handful of people that are financially savvy that know how to maybe work with a loan like that and actually where they're not getting stuck and so forth. But, I would say the vast majority of people aren't looking for, things tied to indexes and ballooning and things like that. They want to sit back.
Having that fixed rate for that duration is in my opinion, I've never 10 years, I've never done an adjustable rate mortgage. Right. Especially with rates being so low. It used to be that there was an advantage to the adjustable rate because there was a significant difference. Same thing with the 30 and the 15. Now, where there was sometimes points difference between the 30 and the 15 year. Now there's half a point difference, maybe a little bit more than that. There's just not that much difference.
Take the 30, take the lower payment, make some extra payments when you need to, and you got the same result.
And that's exactly what I encourage a lot of people. Take the 30-year just in case you have a tough month, but you can always pay it on a 20, 15, or even 10-year mortgage just by paying a little extra each month. People think they have to double up on their payment to get to a 15-year mortgage. Not the case.
Yeah, not
you
true.
know, it's
Yeah,
usually just
yeah.
depending.
We could do a whole entire half an hour on that, right? I mean, we could.
We could do a half hour on
I guess we would.
quick. We could do a half hour on credit. We could do there's just so many different subject matters, and one of the most important things I try to convey to all my customers is I want to extend knowledge. I want to give them knowledge that they're going to take with them the rest of their life.
Right.
Once you learn something that's huge, that's crucial, because you can take that and apply it to your life. And especially things, mortgage process and everything here, it's not hard what we do. Okay, it's just we have a lot of rules and our rules change. It's very frustrating. So you got to be on top of it all the time.
Exactly.
But the reality is it's really not a hard concept of what we do and how we do it, and it does not have to be a stressful process. It can be a relaxed,
that's how I always exactly. And I present that all the time. That's another benefit. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I say that all the time. Is the whole buying a house, moving, mortgages, all these things that people are doing can be really stressful. And I always predicate the conversation, either beginning or end, or sometimes twice, is that we'll do everything we can to have it towards as stress-free as possible. And the only way that's really possible, at least in my opinion, is to have the knowledge and the experience that we both have, right? And if you're a newer person, just to make sure that you're talking to an experienced mortgage person and talking to a real estate, broker or whoever's with you, to give you that, because that when people hear that, I think you have to paint a picture, in my opinion. Again, when you're creating these relationships, and that's a great point that you brought up, is that sort of stress for, is it going to be difficult to sometimes, especially people aren't computer savvy, to get their tax returns, but Mike does provide you a list, and pretty much if you bring all that to him, there's not going to be a lot more left at the end, right? There'll be a final few underwriting things that you may have to come up with, and prove an old address. Just little details. But for the most part, he loads it all up in the front. If they're efficient enough, they knock it all out. And then it's a matter of Mike just communicates, I communicate. And that really helps when you're talking to a buyer or seller out there that is looking. You got a lot of people have kids. They got schools. There's just so much going on in people's lives. So, a move is a big deal. I don't care if you're like us, you moved a million times. It's always stressful in some way, shape, or form. So, and again, I think having guys like me and you really help alleviate a lot of that pain and stress and make it fun. I always say this is one of our mottos at EXP, making real estate fun again. And that's not just for the agents, but that's also for the customers. It doesn't have to be like, ugh. And it's just not all you're doing is, I don't want it to be like that. To me, that's if someone's unhappy and something goes wrong, that's like catastrophic in my world after doing it for so long,
Absolutely. And ultimately, things are only stressful and go wrong when they're not explained and not looked at properly.
Correct.
When it comes down to it, if you, trust me, like I'll tell all my borrowers, we hate asking for documents more than you hate getting them to us. I promise you. We're not asking for this because we just want to. So, when it comes down to it, the reality is we're asking for these things and, for specific reasons. We're not making them up, but being able to explain that reason is what alleviates that stress. And so, again, that person, you hear all the horror stories. They need this at the last minute. They need this at the last minute. They need this at the last minute.
Right. Sometimes those are the bigger banks that don't do any of the work, and all of a sudden at the end, oh, by the way, I needed a closing extension, right? And then the seller's already moved out, and it creates a nightmare situation. So,
it just creates a stressful situation that never needed to exist, provided all the ducks were in line ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, again, hence dealing with someone like yourself, local brokers there's a massive, massive difference, especially someone like Mike here in our backyard. So, anything else you want to say before we, check out of this? This is one of our first ones, everybody. Actually, not one of them. This is our first live stream like this. We've had a million conversations like this. We used to live right across the street from each other and drop each other's kids off at the bus stop, and the kids would take off, and an hour later we might be standing at the stop sign talking about real estate and surfing or whatever. So we could have been recording all that way back then. That would have been funny. But anything else you want to say before we, check out of this, the first one?
No, if anybody has any questions, my phone's always open. The number I see scrolling across the bottom, the 386-793-5435, that is my personal cell phone. That is my line. That's people call me, they text me. I prefer not to get the ones at 2 a.m. because I generally am sleeping that time. But when I wake up at 6, if 7, I'll respond back to you. But I mean, ultimately, I encourage people with questions to call, because again, having that knowledge, having that understanding, especially when you're taking those first steps in a mortgage process, you're not floundering. And you never want to be behind in the mortgage process. You always want to be ahead of the game. And, we do everything we can to get people prepped and get them ready. And by all means, call me with questions and come make an appointment. Sit in front of me. That's one thing. I'm available. And,
Mike's right there in Flagler Beach. What's the address? Always forget what's the address there?
The address, we're 408 South Central Avenue. If you guys know where Flagler
right
Beach is.
Right behind 7-Eleven of Flagler Beach. So super local. You either see this big old pickup truck in the driveway, or most times probably this time of year, or most time of year. Actually, even in the winter, he's driving his golf cart. So, stop in, say hi to Mike. I can't believe he's still wearing shoes. We went to a football game the other day. I couldn't believe it. Just 2 times. I mean, I know Mike a long time. I've only seen shoes on his feet maybe 10 times my whole life. I don't know, it's 40 degrees. The guy's wearing flip flops. So
I am still wearing shorts though. You won't find me with the clothing past my knees or elbows too often. But that's again going back to just the customers and the relax. Nothing personal, especially here at the beach. People who are wealthy, let's say, they're going to come here buy a property at the beach. They don't want to sit in front of a stuffed suit. They want the beach lifestyle. Okay, or that first time home buyer. If they're in front of a guy with a tie, they're intimidated. But the guy sitting there, in a comfortable pair of shorts or polo shirt that's talking to them like people, treating them like people, and explaining it like people, it just creates a different comfort level, and that creates a better referral base. Because I'll tell you, as much as you can, the people who you work with and the people who you get that first time and people who appreciate what you do, they're going to tell everybody because of the experience they had. And that's why we get the referrals we get, Mike. It's not for no reason. It's because we work hard and we take care of our customers, and they let other people. I work toward advertising, but I don't pour a whole lot of money into advertising dollars because I rely on my customers to do that for me.
There you go. Well, excellent. Melissa, I appreciate your time and all the information. And anyone needs to get in touch with Mike, phone number's right there. You can always watch this broadcast again if you want to rewind it and ask questions. Of course, you can go to his Facebook and messenger him or whatever. So same for me. Just reach out to us with anything you need. And hope you all got something great out of this. I know I did. Thank you, Michael.
Awesome guy. Be good.
All right.
Catch you around.
See you guys.
Bye.